For millions of Americans, Christmas is all about tradition. We leave milk and cookies out for the big guy, even though the big guy's blood work came back recently showing that he should be cutting back on both wheat and dairy. We get clothing that are 2 to 3 sizes too small, probably related to the milk and cookies. And we watch A Christmas Story. This beloved classic cult Christmas hit is so huge, it is literally on 24 hours straight during the holiday season. That is a popular movie, and it's why you're here. And since we both agree that this movie is awesome, we can also agree on 2 other things. 1, that the official Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time can, under the right circumstances, shoot one's eye out. And 2, watching bully Scut Farkus get his uppance is pure holiday revenge porn. Not that we're condoning violence here on Spotlight Effect. We are not like that, but I mean, come on, Farkus, he changes the feeling in the room when he walks on screen with that creepy animal hat that he probably killed himself, and those eyes, those yellow eyes. So help me God, yellow eyes. I mean, even his grandma's in the kitchen making candied yams. She gets a giggle when she hears that high-pitched squeal of his when he's getting his face pummeled into the snow. Ain't that right, Grandma? She's in Florida. But isn't that what makes Scut Farkus such a good bully? I mean, you hate him, but you can't take your eyes off him. So, I mean, what's it like to be the kid that everyone hates during the most joyful holiday of the year? Well, we asked him. He's not really a kid anymore. Now he's an adult. He's still has yellow eyes. His name is Zack Ward, and Zack is going to talk to us about his role in Titus. He's going to talk to us about being bullied himself, so he's been there. We'll talk about porta potties and what it's like to be attached to such an iconic Christmas movie. So get your tongue off that frozen pole, get your Ovaltine, put on your pink bunny PJs and settle in, because we have Scut Farkus here and may give you a wedgie if you don't stick around. Spotlight Effect is an opportunity for us all to revisit, relive, and reminisce about certain moments in history with those people most responsible for them. Each of our guests have achieved a certain level of fame, much to the extent that we still think about them to this day, and we want to know more about them. So every Tuesday, I'm going to sit down with one of these guests who at one point were a household name or part of the public consciousness and have used it to propel them forward or since just gone back to a normal civilian life. We're going to learn about the lead up, the sense, and of course, dig deep into that big moment and the effect it had on them and us as well. So please visit our website at thespotlighteffect.com and on all the socials at Spot Effect Pod for more episodes and special features. Zack, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. It's always an honor to be anywhere nowadays.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. What has been your go-to quarantine enjoyment?
Gosh, my wife. I don't mean that in a carnal sense. I mean that I'm lucky enough that my wife and I laugh a lot. So we get to enjoy each other's company. I've been working from home in my office. I've been editing a film that I directed, a new film, and I'm in the process of building a guest house to try and take care of my family. Right now, I have construction going on my property. I have a nice little small house from the 1940s. And my front lawn is turned into a wasteland of construction debris and a porta potty. So basically, my front yard looks like a Spike Lee joint, where you've got in Brooklyn, you've got that abandoned lot in Brooklyn, and then the whole neighborhood gets together and builds a garden, and then it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah,
my front yard looks like the before picture, where you find the dead body of the junkie Right. That with a porta potty in it. So
yeah, that's dug up. Somewhere between that and the money pit. That's where you're at, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Building a house on your property. Are you handy with the tools, or are you hiring somebody to do that?
I'm doing both. My father's a general contractor, and he's now 73 years old. So I grew up swinging a hammer, building houses when I was a kid, and there's a bunch of stuff I know how to do, and there's a bunch of stuff I don't. And so I'm not willing to risk the learning curve. So like I'm doing my own plumbing. I had a different plumber rough in the waistline, the main line, and the ditching, the trenching, and the gas line, bring it into the house, the guest house. And then I did the plumbing and PEX, and I'm going to do the finished plumbing on the inside because that stuff is actually kind of easy.
I heard the word plumbing. Everything else, I don't know what language it was in. I wish I grew up like you. I wish I was handy like that. My father was not either. He goes, listen, we don't do tools, and math is the only subject you're not going to get a beating over if you fail. You get that from me. But yeah, and he's he's a little bit older than your dad. And you and I think, are pretty much the same age. Were you a 1970 kid?
Born in 69.
69. I was born in 70. I'm hitting the big 50 in September. Yeah.
Oh, look at you, little fella. That's
little
awesome.
fella, yeah.
Young whippersnapper.
How was it for you when you hit it?
It's fine, anticlimactic. You know, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when I turned 40 was when I noticed that I was getting these headaches and my eyes hurt. And that's when they're like, oh, yeah, you need to wear glasses.
Going back to the beginning, I mean, you've been in this business a long time, and you've had great longevity in your career. Highs and lows, but it's just, you look at your IMDb page and it's like scroll. You're just one of these guys that's always working. But all the way back in the beginning, A Christmas Story started it all, and you still support this film. You still show up at events. Yeah. You still do charity work for the film.
Yeah.
What is it about that film in particular that you still remain so strongly connected to, and that you're willing to jump in there?
It's really good. I mean, it's a great film. It's that movie is in the Library of Congress as one of the top 100 most important films of the last century.
That's not a bad start to a career,
dude. Yeah, I take very little responsibility for that. Let's be honest. I was 13 years old. I was a little kid. It was my first feature film. My mom's an actress, so I think I definitely had a head start at other people my age when it came to experience in the industry, just being around it. So therefore, by osmosis, I understood more than most. But for my first feature film to be something on the level of The Shawshank Redemption,
oh yeah,
or the Hudsucker Proxy, or Star Wars. I mean, let's be honest. Christmas Story and Star Wars are classic, iconic films.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying that they're in any way other than that similar, but the fact that you can make a Yoda reference from a film that came out in 76 and a 5-year-old kid will go, yeah, and you can make a Don't Shoot Your Eye Out, or a Pink Nightmare, or I Double Dog Dare You. And look, there's generations that have grown up since that movie was released. They weren't privy to the 1940s Depression era. They had no relationship to it. Their entire window into that experience is from A Christmas Story. And when you do a movie like Transformers, the first one, which was the best one, because it was no pun intended, it was transformational in the sense of how we saw filmmaking. Because for the first time, giant robot Transformers were a thing. And then after that, you'd already seen it, so it became whatever. But in the beginning, it was new and fresh. And it's a $150 million movie. And you know what's crazy? No one's doing 24-hour marathons of a $150 million movie that made over $1 billion worldwide. But they're doing that of a $4 million movie that has been going on for 37 years.
My first time I ever saw A Christmas Story was on VHS in English class in school. Towards the holidays, sometimes, the class load gets a little bit lighter and they don't want to burden the kids with homework. So, 2 days left, we're going to put on a movie. And I had never heard of it. I didn't see it in the theater. And first of all, the voiceover narration hooked me right away because every note was perfect. It was paced perfectly. And it just looked, it's kind of like the feeling I got when I would see like another Christmas special. It was like Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It was like the neighborhood was mine, the brown and the winter and the cold is all growing up because, our generation is still the outdoor kids.
Yeah.
But we didn't have, all this. It was, you were out sleigh riding. My dad would lock the door. Don't come home until dinner.
Yeah.
So outdoor life, that was it. And so I identified with that movie really, really well. It was just wonderful.
Such a good, and now you have kids or no?
I do. I have a 15-year-old son who's on the autism spectrum and quotes that movie a lot. In particularly, Dad's going to kill Ralph. Like if I get mad, he'll say, Mommy, Dad's going to kill Ralphie. And I'm like, nah, he's not going to kill Ralphie. I have awesome. A 13-year-old daughter who turned 13 during the quarantine, and it's been so much fun. So you were 13 when you did this movie, but did the acting bug hit you? Is it because you grew up, and your mom is an actor?
Yeah. When I was 8 years old, I was living in Stratford, Ontario. There's a big giant theater in Stratford, Ontario, where it is deemed one of the most elite Shakespearean festivals in the world. Mm. And to be invited there as talent is a huge, huge honor. So like Maggie Smith, Dame Maggie Smith, who Americans would usually know from like the Harry Potter movies, she was someone who was invited there to perform, and she did, and very, very famous people. And my mom was one of them. And I was there backstage playing with swords and being a little dick at the age of like 7 and 8. And then
perfect sword playing age.
Bro, I get to mess about with, armor and crowns and all this stuff. Oh, so cool. And also you get to see the craziness behind the scenes where it's the wardrobe and the makeup people and the props and the set design and the director. And you get to sit in the theater watching everybody rehearse and then see how it comes to life. So you get to really see how they make the sausage. And that's what I fell in love with as a kid, was the process of it. Whereas I know for most people who are not in the industry, they see what's on the red carpet.
Right.
And so that's what they fall in love with. Basically that's just a sales pitch. That's all aren't these people amazingly important, blah, blah, blah. And they're not. And so I saw this one performance of The Taming of the Shrew. Then the way the guy did the performance left me disappointed. And I remember thinking, that guy sucks. I could do better than him. And that's when I asked my mom if I could become an actor. And she was like, oh, hell no.
Now, why not if she's doing it?
Oh, well, she knew how hard it was and how little future there would be in it and how difficult it would be. Whereas when you're young, you think it'll all work out because you're stupid. And but my older brother convinced her that I should give it a shot. And so I started doing auditions at the age of 10 for commercials.
Can you find those commercials online? Have you been able to dig?
Oh yeah.
Dig that.
You should dig them up. They're totally available.
Oh,
they're
that's
hilarious.
Awesome. What was your foundation to keep you grounded? Because we've seen a million horror stories of kids who
remember I looked like this.
Oh, that's not threatening looking at all. That's a very friendly.
That's a little redhead with a perm, buddy. That's how cool I was back in the day. I got me a perm.
It's like wavy.
Oh, no, that was a perm, buddy. I had a perm. Oh, and the braces? Come on. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, how did I keep grounded? Well, number one, you're in Canada, so there is no star system. No one's impressed with you. No one is treating you any different than anyone else. I went to 8 different schools before junior high.
Why that many?
My mom was a single mom traveling for work. And remember the 70s, 72 through 75 was a massive depression across North America. So you're desperately trying to find work. So especially my mom is a single mom raising 2 kids. And so she traveled quite a bit and I went with her. Lived in the Yukon, lived in Gravenhurst, Stratford, Ontario, in Long Island, New York City, all over Toronto. By the time I moved out at the age of 18, I had lived in 22 different homes. So wrap your fucking head around that. So I was always the new kid named Zack with no dad, with red hair, didn't play hockey. And that means that you just got in a lot of fights. And so kids were not like, hey, man, I really loved your Doritos commercial. No, they turtle you, which is a hockey term for pulling your shirt over your head and then punching you in the face. And the few times I got to spend time with my father, he was a Golden Gloves boxer. And so at the age of 6, the first and only present I ever remember getting from him was a stand-up speed bag and learning how to punch. So I had a lot of experience with bullies trying to bully me and me not liking that personality trait. When you were hurting and sort of mocking little people, because I got to see it everywhere I went. So for me, being Scut Farkus, it was revenge, straight up revenge. I was belittling these guys that I thought were douchebags, that I thought were cowards, that I thought were nothing.
Was there a particular bully that you were imitating? Like, did you picture one in particular?
Yep. There was one I really hated. I can't remember his first name, but his family was called the Leaders, and he really leaned into that motherfucking name in 5th grade. And so him and his brothers would chase me out and beat me up. I also had a bully named Samaj Bajokas, which is a great name from a certain block country. And then years later, we became friends, and he found out that all this, what he went through was so interesting to me. No father had left, and then he had learning disability with dyslexia and had to travel for 2 hours to get to our school. So it's so funny in retrospect what a bully is. And really, sometimes there are people who are misunderstood and going through a really hard time that you don't get. And that guy, Samaj Bajokas, grew up to become a fire captain. Like, right? You know, the guy who rushes into houses and saves children and is known for it in Canada. I'm like, yeah, I think my bully's pretty awesome.
My favorite part of the revenge beatdown that you got in the movie was
the crying,
like, the squeal, the high pitched, that squeal you did, man. It was like, it just, I mean, look, he could have just beaten you. You could have just been crying and whatever, and your nose is all bloody, but it was that squeal of no, that just made everything, just made it that much more delicious. Because you moved around and got beat up. I stayed in the same place and got beat up. I was that kid that just, but you at least fought back. I never did. I just got my ass kicked over, and I tried to joke my way out of every fight.
That joking actually works really well.
Commercials didn't do anything to
didn't do nothing.
Popularize you in the school.
Nobody cared about Christmas Story when it came out. It didn't matter. And I literally took a girl on a date to go see Christmas Story. This girl that I had a mad crush on, and she was French Canadian. And at the end of it, like, I had spent the entire film terrified trying to hold her hand, you know?
Yeah.
And like sweating profusely. And then we left the theater. We were outside, and I was like, so what did you think? What do you think? I'm in the movie. What do you think? And she looks at me. She goes, no, I don't like this so much. Okay, bye-bye. And she gets on the subway and takes off. But, you know, here's the thing is, yeah, that's soul crushing. But at the same time, I didn't grow up having smoke blowed up my ass because I happened to be in front of the camera instead of behind it. And so I never had a massive drop off where my sense of self-worth was attached to other people's approval. I mean, I'm an actor and a writer and a producer and a director. So yes, I'm sure I'm broken. I'm Chip China, broken goods. But because I never got that approval on a commercial level where people were, oh my God, Zack, that thing you said is funny because you're famous, never happened. It never happened.
Did you feel like if you lived in LA, it might have been a different situation if you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Or especially if you made the movie, like, if you had to make, I mean, look, you're a writer, you're a producer, you're a director now. When you make your own thing now, you have to, the publicity alone and the social media and all these things you have to do to promote it. And then you go on tour promoting it. You didn't have to do any of that when you were a kid for a Christmas Story?
They were not interested.
You've done more interviews on it now.
Yeah, oh yeah. They had no interest in me whatsoever when the movie was released. And what had happened to MGM is that, so what, you've got a studio president, okay? Mm-hmm. There's a guy or a woman who is the president of the studio. And they talked about Clark, the director, and they want Bob Clark to do Porky's 2. And he says, I'll do Porky's 2 if you let me do my passion project, A Christmas Story. They say, okay. So then studio president says yes. They make the movie, and then studio president is fired because it happens. And then new studio president comes in and is looking what's on the docket and it goes, oh, Christmas Story movie, eh? Well, here's the problem. The new studio president is not going to work hard to make the old studio president's projects look good. So what they do, and this is industry standard, the new president, so say Christmas Story should have had a budget of like $20 million for advertising. Well, when the new president comes in, they go, oh yeah, no, fuck that. Give him $1 million. Bye. And then release it on a horrible timeline. So we were released prior to Christmas, but not with enough marketing for anybody to know what the movie was, and not in enough theaters. And so it was given like the bare minimum that was contractually obligated before it was replaced with Rambo 2. It's not like you think of it nowadays where they play the movie, they test the movie, and then they have a whole bunch of audience interaction going, we really like that bully. We love it. Let's do interviews with the bully and see how that pops up. That didn't happen, bro. So that movie came. I wasn't invited to the premiere.
Wait,
I wasn't
what?
told of it. Oh, yeah. No. I wasn't told. It came out, and I learned about it being released in the newspaper in Toronto. Nobody called me. Nobody talked to me about it. Nobody cared. It is what it is. I don't really have an emotional value on it either way. But yeah, no one gave a shit when it came out.
At what point did you realize in your career where you got to look back and go, boy, a lot of people screwed up. This is a classic. Like, this could have happened. This should have happened. Like, wow, did they drop the ball in this movie?
I mean, sure, but it's also like, that's the whole point about Christmas Story is that you could not manufacture this level of support. It's all these things that had to come together to create this perfect storm, to create this tipping point.
And you can thank Black Christmas and Porky's for this film.
Yeah, I can also thank VHS. I can also thank the MGM going bankrupt and selling out their library to Turner, and then them using Christmas Story as a loss leader on the 24-hour marathon for Christmas because nobody ever watches TV on Christmas. So they didn't put it on television because they thought, what a great idea. They're like, well, fuck it. We can't sell any advertising space on Christmas anyways because the numbers are through the floor.
Yeah.
So just put on shit we already own and who cares? And then building this audience that becomes just, I mean, you couldn't plan that.
It's just one of those things, I think, and it's not that the other work you've done isn't great, but it's almost like the movie is bigger than everybody else in it. It just means so much to people.
I think you're right.
I mean, it just is a part of, it's like a flavor or a smell that you and then it just triggers a memory. That movie just breaks my heart, and I have so many childhood memories attached to it. And the quotables, I mean, any nerd loves the quotables. Any movie that can add, even if it's not a good movie, if you can add like one quote to my like daily lexicon, I will have a special place. And this movie has, is there any time a package shows up at the house that says fragile on it where I don't go, fragile, must be Italian. I do that. I put my kids in those snowsuits and I can't put my arms down. I've done that. I've tried not to swear in front of the children, so I try to swear like the dad. And not a finger, and the Bumpus Hounds, and all that stuff. You used up all the glue on purpose. I mean, hell, dude, there's two things when the holidays roll around that I love. I put Mr. Hanky on top of the Christmas tree, and we put this in the window.
Yeah.
And everybody's, I think the damn thing still works. Does it still work? Yeah. I had to go up in the attic, and it's 1,000 degrees. I almost passed out. The leg still works. And then you get there and they can have both. It's a major award. I love this thing. Love it.
Yeah.
Did they ever make an action figure out of Scut?
Yes, they do.
Was it like a McFarlane series or something? Or like?
I think I have one right here. Hold on a second.
That's really it, man. Once you're an action figure. Oh, yeah. Because video quality back in the day wasn't great, I never noticed that there was a head on the hat until I saw an interview you did, and it was more high def, and I never knew there was oh, yeah, look at that.
A little face.
Yeah, I never noticed it until recently. Once you get like real, and I get that 1080p in there. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's so.
There's that.
You still have it? Do you still have the hat?
No, the original hat is in the museum in Cleveland.
Have you been to the house?
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't shoot any scenes in it, but it's still.
No, actually, nobody shot any scenes in it. That was only used for the exteriors. That was not used for interiors.
Does the alley where the fight took place still exist?
I have no idea.
That crazy?
I have no idea. Yeah, the action figure is a funny situation. It is pretty cool to have an action figure, and that's something that NECA. They made this and they did a great job. But I sued them because Joel Weinshanker, the owner of NECA, attempted some skullduggery, shall we say. I'll simplify this. There was some malfeasance when it came to copyright infringement and ownership of likeness, which I actually am the only actor from A Christmas Story who owns his likeness. Because originally I wasn't the bully. Originally, Scut Farkus was the sidekick. So Grover Dill had the full contract with all of the details for merchandising. And then when I showed up on set, they saw that Grover Dill was this big, and I was like a foot taller than him. And Bob Clark said, you get his lines, he gets yours. So all of a sudden I had all the lines. And then when they went to go make product, they realized that Zack Ward never really gave away his merchandising rights to the film. So if you want to make something with Scut Farkus, you have to contact me as well as Warner Brothers instead of just Warner Brothers.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it's nice, but it's also like there's very little content of Scut Farkus out there because of that. There's some bootleg stuff, which I appreciate
bootleg Scut Farkus.
It's a bootleg Farkus. I appreciate the art that goes into it. There's some neat stuff.
Of course.
But yeah, NECA, the owner tried to be sneaky and got spanked for it. And he knows exactly what he did. They don't make these anymore. And I had to, I bought out all the remaining inventory. And I used them to raise money for different charities.
That's fantastic.
But, yeah, it's pretty dope. I've got like 1,000 of these things, and then they'll all be gone, and it'll be over. But yeah, they're pretty sweet. I saw one going on eBay the other day for $1,500. I was like, I don't think so. I think the highest amount of fame I started experiencing was when I was doing Titus,
right?
And it was a cult hit, and it was on every week, and we were getting huge numbers.
I watched the damn thing and didn't know that was you. Because this predates IMDb, but it does. It just like you didn't Google anybody. You just enjoyed the show, and so and here it is, a movie that I love that you were in, a show that I enjoyed. Didn't put the two together because nobody really was doing that.
I'm honored. I appreciate that.
Hey, would you mind? We have somebody who would like to come in and say hi to you.
Sure.
Hello.
I'm hugging you. That's amazing. Hey, buddy.
David Chatra, how are you?
I'm good.
David, we just worked together.
We almost did. We're working on Mooch.
Yeah, David and I are working on a thing.
What? My friend, one of my oldest friends, Tony D'Antonio, is a producer in New York, and she's doing a Zoom show, a Zoom pilot, and Jim is in it. And I had never met Jim before, and I just met him at the table read through Zoom like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'm in episode 2.
David's done like 1,000, he's like a big voiceover guy from New York because, live in New York anymore, whatever.
I live in Lala, yeah.
Yeah.
Why is this spotlight on Zack Ward? What did you do?
He dialed in first.
I think what it is, David, is basically they're going through it. They use a scraper on the internet to see what comes up, and then who's pathetic enough to be available for no money. And
Monday.
And then this guy,
baby.
You're only doing one of these. I'm doing all of them.
But you get paid the big bucks.
For those of you watching, David was also on Titus, played Tommy.
Tommy Shafter.
And, these two boys worked a lot together on that show.
Yes, we did.
We did.
Yeah, that was awesome.
2000, what was it, 99, then 2000 to 2002, we did 54 episodes.
Yep, 54 episodes.
Yeah.
Was that the first time either of you worked like in front of a that was a live studio audience, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Was that a first time for both of you doing that?
For me, yeah. As Zack had told me when he first met me, he said, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know, because based on your resume and mine, my credits club yours like a baby seal. So he let me know where we stood in the pecking order.
Wow. I don't think that's how that worked. I remember seeing Dave. It wasn't you. It was Steve Carell.
Steve Carell and I got called back for the same role. Yeah. We got all the way to the end, and I got the role over him. Whatever happened to him? I hope things worked out for him.
I saw him at Costco today.
I hope he was wearing a mask.
Yeah, he's just had a career of horrible choices.
Just one after another, poor dude.
Poor guy.
David, did you know that Zack was Scut Farkus? Like when you met him, did you know?
No. Well, here's the funny the Zack and I tale of terror. When I found out he was Scut Farkus, I had never watched A Christmas Story.
How's that possible?
It's a Wonderful Life guy. So I didn't know about A Christmas Story. So I never watched it. My family never watched it. So he's like, you have to watch it. And I'm like, now I'm not going to watch it because you're in it.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't tell me what to do, Zack. I'm older than you.
And now they play it like back to back in a loop on TBS or something.
Yeah, well, between that and like Shawshank Redemption, that network survived. That was just 24/7. Like I would wake up in the morning and like what I do now during the holidays, I wake up in the morning. I used to put like the fire pit on the TV because we didn't have one.
Oh yeah.
But now I put what's his face with the mustache that just sips whiskey for 45 minutes straight and looks into the camera. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, the guy from
Offerman, Nick Offerman.
Yes, Nick Offerman.
David, are you saying you still haven't seen it?
Nope.
Are you kidding me? You still haven't seen
this?
I
love that. I love that. You're such a dick.
I know.
I love that.
Yes, but Jim, you don't know why I'm being a dick to Zack, because it was a trilogy of terror working on the set. Do you know what Zack's favorite thing to do to me was during the run of that show? He would leave right quickly after notes or right before lunch, and he would hide in my dressing room. And now most people would hide in the dressing room with like an island when you walk in. She scares you as soon as you walk in. Zack's MO was he would hide until I found him. So he'd be in there for 20 minutes not doing anything. I would eat lunch. I would make phone calls. I would do texts. And then all of a sudden, behind the couch, I hear, and he got me. He got me every time. Every time.
We got to do so much fun stuff together, and it was a magical experience. There were so many problems. That's why the show got canceled. But I think it's like the difference between vacation and adventure. You know, if you go to, I don't know, you go someplace for a full paid holiday where you sit on the beach and read a book. That's a holiday. You go somewhere where it's an adventure. You might have died, but you made it. That's the story that you tell for the rest of your life. Yeah. And doing Titus was definitely an adventure. And one of the things I love doing is that we did the what do they call Television Critics Awards, TCAs. Mm-hmm. And so it was Titus and Stacy Keach and Cynthia Watros were in sort of like the We're Big Stars group to do interviews with, and then me and David.
Yeah.
We were like and then the other white meat. If you want to, And it was funny because I didn't know what we were doing in the beginning, and I had a little bit more experience with it than Dave did because I had other TV series before, so I'd gone through some of that process. But it was really neat because Dave and I were now basically tag teaming the comedy. In the beginning, you got to understand these interviews, you're doing hundreds of the fucking things.
Oh, yeah.
And so after 10 or 20, when you've said the same story and you're getting bored of it and you're trying to keep it tight and fast, now David and I were bouncing off of each other. And it was like doing vaudeville with your best friend.
We had a good time at those things. Because we basically just entertained ourselves. Because the questions were always the same. Like, tell me about your character. Where does your character fit in the story? What's going to happen with the season? What else have you done? So we would just basically finish each other's sentences by like the last part of the day. And it was a lot of fun.
I didn't really understand that process, like how that works. Back in like 2007 or so, me and I don't know, David, if you know Joe Narciso?
Yeah, very much. Very well.
Joe and I used to host a show on Spike TV called The Weekend Pregame. And basically it was just like a commercial for movies. And so we would go to places, we'd interview people. They'd either come to us or we'd go to them. And Zach, I understand totally. Like it's the same questions over and over because there was one where we'd go to a hotel and it was like for some Nicolas Cage super, I don't know what it was. Doesn't matter. But he's sitting there and the interviewer people come into him. Mm-hmm. And he'd been going all day answering the same things you were saying, David. Well, tell me about your character. Tell me about the movie. And so by the time we were one of the last ones. They're like, so tell us about Dr. So-and-so. He's like, so he's a doctor who, like I said the other fucking 40 times, and you're like, and of course you're like, hey man, I'm just trying to do my job. I'm like, dude, you have no idea how many times he's had to answer these
same questions
over and over. It's like I'm talking to Zack. I'm like, so do you still have the hat? And it's like, oh, let's see, that's number 9.
I love that question where they go, do you still wear the hat? I'm like, well, I did the movie when I was 13. I'm 50 now, so that means that my head didn't grow.
Hold that thought, gentlemen. We'll be right back after a quick break. Each week, Spotlight Effect will feature people who have made headlines over the years, topped the charts, accumulated millions of social media hits, stolen scenes, or otherwise reached cult status for a period of time. If you like this show, please subscribe. Visit the spotlighteffect.com and on all the socials at Spot Effect Pod for special features and really cool guests that we're going to be having coming up every Tuesday. So if you like us, hey, Apple Podcasts, you can review us there. If you have a suggestion for a guest that you'd like to hear from, absolutely. Drop us a line on all the socials and on the spotlighteffect.com. What was it like working with like someone like Stacy Keach, who's been around since God was an altar boy?
He got me super high one time. That was scary.
Oh, do go on.
Of course.
I tell you about that time I got high with Stacy Keach. Yeah, it was me, Stacy Keach, and Grace Jones in a hot tub in Des Moines.
No, I think it was the second or third season when our numbers were popping and we were getting a lot of press, and we were doing interstitials, which are like the little small commercials between, like. Thursday night on Fox, it's going to be this show, and then a little commercial about Titus, and then this show, commercial about Titus, and then Titus. I think that's the voice they use. You guys would know better than me.
Exactly.
So we had to come in one day, like during the weekend, to do this shit. And he's like, oh, awesome. And I went up to Stacy, and I were the only two actors who smoked cigarettes. And so I couldn't smoke in the building, but no one was going to tell Stacy what to do. I'd go into his dressing room and smoke a cigarette there. I'd be like, yeah, fuck him. And he was like, hey, you want this? And he passed me the cigarette. I was like, oh, I got my smokes. He was like, not like this, you don't. Like, what? So I'm like, oh, it's marijuana. And I take a little hit of it. I'm like, oh, good. And he's like, yeah, watch yourself. I was like, okay, that's good enough. And now I go get down to the stage, and between my dressing room and there, I'm now like, I'm getting really hard. And I don't know if you can tell, but my eyes are pretty small to start off.
Already small.
Yeah. Actually, no joke. If you look at the internet, the way I'm described, they go red hair, high cheekbones, hard jawline, eye color, narrow. Fucking narrow.
Narrow.
So yeah, narrow. So I walked out onto the stage, and all the studio execs are there, and I'm fucking high, dude. Like, I'm not comfortable at all. I'm really fucking paranoid, and I'm looking around, I'm like, God damn, they're all gonna know. And I see Stacy, and he always wears these glasses that are like there's a rose tint to them, and now I know why.
Yeah.
And I walk out there, I'm like, Stacy, do I look high? I was like, do I look high? and he looks at me and goes, oh, fuck yeah, you do.
Wait a minute. So that show was going well, and 2 years in, out you go.
Well, I don't exactly know, but all I know from what happened we started out behind Malcolm in the Middle and got huge ratings from that 70s show. We started out behind that 70s show, and they were 1 and 2 for the network. We were 30th in the Nielsen's at the end of the first season, carried all the way into the second, and then we got moved to Thursday nights behind Bernie Mac, and then we fell to 90th, and then our audience disappeared.
Now, I heard, Zack, that they actually tried to reissue a version of the Christmas Story that cut the fight scene that David has not seen yet out.
Yeah, they did that. I was doing a charity fundraiser for in Omaha, Nebraska, which, by the way, oh my God, what a beautiful town! Like,
it's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
wow! Like, I didn't know, man. And the buildings are and the people are just fantastic,
delightful,
lovely. Cold as hell, but just
cold
wonderful. Yeah, they cut out my character getting beaten up. They cut it out unsolicited by the people who rented the copy of the film, and that's some bullshit right there. That is some censorship bullshit.
Wait, who cut it?
Warner Brothers, Matt. So these people, it was the Hart Foundation had paid to get a print of the film, and when they got it, that had been edited out, unrequested, bro.
I'm trying to picture like how that serves the story.
It's just
like, what do you cut from?
And who's like, well, you can't watch kids get punched in the face because someone will sue us or complain. And I think this level of litigious cancel culture is going to pass. I think the pendulum of the revolution swings past the apex.
Yeah, that's my wife and I say that all the time. Like, man, It's going to come back the other way. It's got to come back hard, man.
But I think people will go back to being normal people about shit. They can take a fucking joke. They don't have to be so fucking precious. And they're going to get bored. Because like what we talked about before, people, it's convenient to have outrage when you can get all this attention. It's convenient to do all these TikToks when you can show off your dance moves and your body and get attention for it. No one wants to see your fucking dance moves on the corner of your street. So that's my point. Is I think
you have not seen my dance move. All right, indulge me for a second here. We do this little like rapid. It's like literally a 15-second rapid fire thing. It requires no brain cells at all for this. All right.
What are you saying? Okay.
All right. So anybody wants to do it? No, because mine are all fried after this. Let us begin. Rapid fire questions. Bully technique battle. Kiefer Sutherland's Ace Merrill from Stand By Me or Sweep the Leg Johnny Lawrence from Karate Kid? Who's the better bully?
Kiefer Sutherland, scary as hell.
Nice. Chet from Weird Science or Biff from Back to the Future?
Biff.
Oh, good one. Scut Farkus or Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter?
Oh, Scut Farkus. I would wipe the floor with him.
Have you ever owned a BB gun?
Yes.
Favorite quarantine snack?
Your mom?
Oh!
Okay, bye-bye!
And I believe that's time. This has been Spotlight Effect, where we reminisce about those great moments of years past and the effect they had on all of us. If you have an idea for a guest, please drop us a line at thespotlighteffect.com and on all our socials at Spot Effect Pod. I'm Jim Conroy. Spotlight Effect is created by Price Brothers, produced by Oink Inc. Radio. Associate producer Tori Adams and is recorded and produced at Baker Sound Studios in Philadelphia.